It all started with a suitcase. A modest black roller bag, sitting by the door like it had something to confess. Ashley stood next to it in a flowy white blouse, smiling like she hadn't just told me she'd be gone for the weekend. "It's Lacey's wedding," she said, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. "You remember Lacey, right?" Of course I remembered Lacey, the woman who once claimed she didn't believe in monogamy while drunk at our dinner table. "Yeah," I replied, zipping up my jacket. The one who swore she'd never settle down unless the groom had abs and a trust fund. Ashley laughed. "She found both. It's in Napa. Girls only." I nodded slowly. Something about the way she said it, the timing, the tone, the way her hand never left her phone, sent a flicker of static across my brain. But I didn't press. "Not yet. You learn to pick your battles in marriage. At least, until the war arrives on your front lawn." She kissed me on the cheek like a neighbor heading out for groceries. No passion. No urgency. Just a peck with an expiration date. Then she wheeled the suitcase to the car, tossed it in the trunk, and drove off into the Friday dusk. 2 hours later, I found the tickets. I wasn't snooping, at least not at first. I had gone to grab my headphones from her nightstand drawer. She kept stealing them, and there they were, 2 Amtrak tickets to San Diego. Not Napa. Not a girl's trip. And definitely not solo. 2 names were printed at the top. Ashley R. Collins and Mason D. Langford. I stared at the names like they'd been carved into my chest. Mason. That name echoed like a cough in a silent room. He was no friend of mine. I'd seen him once, a business acquaintance, Ashley had said, some smooth-talking finance guy with the charisma of a scented candle and the eyes of a fox. So much for trust. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at those tickets. Because in that moment, I wasn't a husband. I was a detective. A man quietly collecting the puzzle pieces of his own humiliation. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because the best way to catch a liar isn't to yell. It's to let them speak. And I had a better idea than a shouting match. A wedding was coming. And oh, it was going to be unforgettable. You learn a lot when you stop reacting and start watching. That weekend, while Ashley was supposedly sipping Chardonnay in Napa and posting recycled Pinterest quotes about self-love, I started laying the groundwork. First, I called Lacey. Now, Lacey and I weren't exactly besties. Our entire relationship was built on awkward hugs and side-eyes at double dates. But desperation makes strange bedfellows. I dialed her number expecting an argument. What I got was an explosion. "She what?" Lacey practically shrieked through the phone. "I haven't even spoken to Ashley in 2 months. My wedding isn't until August, and it's in Oregon, not Napa." I let the silence answer for me. Lacey caught on fast. "Who's the guy?" "Mason Langford." Another pause. Then a gasp so sharp I pictured her clapping a hand over her mouth. "That guy?" I thought she was joking when she brought him up. "He used to date a girl I know, Jessica Langford." "Related?" I asked. "His wife." Oh, plot twist. Turns out Mason wasn't just Ashley's weekend entertainment. He was someone else's husband, too. I don't know what felt worse, that my wife was cheating on me or that she picked a guy so cliché he couldn't even manage an original brand of betrayal. But the more Lacey talked, the more the wheels started turning. Because as it turned out, she wasn't just furious, she was motivated. She offered something rare, access. Turns out Lacey had mutual friends with Jessica, Mason's wife. She didn't just know her, she liked her. "She deserves to know," Lacey said. "We all do." That's when the light bulb went off. "No," I told her. "Not yet. Because anyone can yell and throw a fit. That's easy. That's forgettable. But to deliver a front row seat to the truth? At a wedding, no less? That's art." So I made a call. I found Jessica's number. And with all the calm of a man booking a haircut, I introduced myself. "Hi, Jessica. You don't know me. But your husband and my wife are going on a romantic getaway together." She didn't speak at first. Then she whispered, "Tell me everything." And just like that, the stage was set. I always thought betrayal would come with fireworks, raised voices, slammed doors, dramatic music in the background like we were in some budget Netflix drama. But in reality, it came with a ding. A message on my phone. A single photo. Jessica had followed through. She found them, Ashley and Mason, exactly where I predicted. Not in Napa. Not at a wedding. But poolside at a boutique hotel in San Diego, sipping overpriced drinks and playing footsie like 2 people with nothing to lose and no consequences to fear. Ashley wore that yellow sundress she hadn't worn in years. Said it was too fancy for local stuff. Apparently not too fancy for infidelity. They were laughing. leaning in, his hand on her thigh, her head tilted just enough to say, "I'm not even sorry." Jessica took the photo from behind a pair of oversized sunglasses and nerves of steel. She'd driven down on a hunch after my call, rented a room, and waited. She didn't cry. She documented. And then she sent it to me. I stared at that image for 10 minutes. Not because it was shocking, I already knew, but because seeing it turned knowledge into reality. You can suspect someone's lying, but the moment you see it, it's like a cold slap from a friend who's done watching you be a fool. I thanked Jessica. She thanked me back. "We've both been married to shadows," she said. "It's time we let them step into the light." And that's when the plan crystallized. A wedding was happening soon. Not Lacey's, but Mason's cousin's. Turns out Jessica and Mason had not separated yet, and his name was still on the guest list. And Ashley, by association, was tagging along, claiming to be there to support a friend, of course. Perfect. All we had to do was show up. Together. Let them see us standing side by side. Two calm, composed people carrying not rage, but evidence. Let them fumble over their drinks. Let their carefully built lies collapse beneath the weight of one perfect scene. And so we planned. We picked our outfits. We decided where we'd stand, what we'd say, or more importantly, what we wouldn't say. Because sometimes, silence is the speech. And presence? The punchline. There's something poetic about showing up to a wedding just to destroy a relationship. I mean, think about it. Everyone's there for love, champagne, and staged tears. And we were bringing a reality check so cold it could frost the cake. The wedding was held at this vineyard-style estate up in the hills. White chairs, fairy lights, acoustic guitarists strumming Ed Sheeran. All that Pinterest stuff that screams forever, even if half the people there probably brought someone they met on an app 2 weeks ago. Jessica and I pulled up in separate cars. Strategic. Let them think we're strangers until it's time to drop the curtain. I stepped out in a navy suit. Not the one I wore when I married Ashley, that one deserved to rot in a closet like the trust it was built on, but a new one. Crisp. Sharp. War ready. Jessica wore black. Not the morning kind. No, hers said elegance with a hint of vengeance. Like she might toast your engagement and then set your house on fire with a smile. She walked up to me near the reception tent, her heels silent on the stone path. "You ready?" she asked. "I was born for this," I replied, adjusting my cufflinks like a man about to negotiate a merger. Inside, the reception was just getting underway. The ceremony was done. The bride and groom, innocent collateral in this mess, were off taking photos with their golden retriever or whatever Instagram-inspired nonsense was happening. Guests mingled over flutes of Prosecco. The air smelled like lavender and secrets. And there, across the lawn, stood Ashley and Mason. She wore a dusty rose dress that clung a little too confidently for someone whose invitation should have been revoked on moral grounds. He looked smug, like he believed he'd pulled off the heist of the century, stealing another man's wife with zero consequences. Jessica leaned in. "I don't want to make a scene." "You won't have to," I said. "They're going to make it for us." The moment Ashley saw me, I watched her brain short-circuit in real time. She did this little double take, like she wasn't sure if I was real or just a hallucination brought on by too many mimosas. Mason turned, saw Jessica next to me, and did a full-body flinch. I wish I could bottle that expression and sell it to betrayed spouses everywhere. Ashley blinked, took a step forward. "Logan, what are you?" I raised my glass. "Surprise." Jessica gave Mason a finger wave. "We figured since you brought our marriage to this party, we'd return the favor." People started to notice. A few guests leaned in, ears perked. One older guy practically dropped his shrimp cocktail in anticipation. I think he'd been bored ever since the ceremony ended. Ashley looked around nervously. "This isn't the time or place." I smiled, calm as ever. "You're right. You should have thought of that before you lied about where you were going. Told me you were celebrating a wedding with Lacey, who, by the way, sends her regards. She's furious she didn't get to host this disaster herself." Mason tried to cut in. "All right. Let's just step aside." Jessica beat him to it. "Oh no, Mason. We're not stepping anywhere. You see, I've spent years watching you play the doting husband while cheating like it's a sport. I even believed your work trips and late-night calls to clients. But this time, you made the mistake of being lazy." She held up her phone and tapped it. A photo appeared on the screen, him and Ashley at the hotel pool, Ashley's legs draped over his. It was framed so well it could have been an ad for betrayal. Gasps rippled nearby. Someone actually whispered, "Oh my God," like we were in the middle of a soap opera. Ashley's voice dropped to a hiss. Why are you doing this? You mean, why am I not letting you get away with it? I said, cocking my head. Because you didn't just cheat. You insulted my intelligence. You turned our marriage into a matinee and assumed I'd never notice the missing pieces. Jessica crossed her arms. And Mason? You're not just a liar. You're a coward. You could have left. Been honest. But instead, you let me make dinner for you while you texted her from the bathroom. Mason opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Just a choking sound, like his dignity had lodged itself in his throat. I could see the bride's mother in the distance whispering furiously to someone who looked like the wedding planner. People were watching, phones slipping from clutches, wine being sipped more carefully. And still, I stayed composed. No shouting. No dramatics. Just the truth, standing tall in a tailored suit. Ashley looked desperate now. Can we just talk? In private? I turned to Jessica. You want to step away? She smiled thinly. Nope. I leaned forward. You wanted a weekend getaway. A fantasy. Well, welcome back to reality. I won't raise my voice. I won't throw a drink. But I will make sure everyone here knows what kind of people you are. Then I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out 2 envelopes. Divorce papers, I said, handing one to Ashley. Pre-signed. Congratulations, you're finally free. I handed the second to Jessica. This one's for you. My lawyer said to tell you you'll be hearing from him. Jessica took the envelope with a nod. I was never leaving Mason. Thanks. I'll frame it. Ashley's face crumbled. Mason looked like he wanted to evaporate. We, on the other hand, turned and walked away with every eye at that wedding drilling into their backs. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it just has to be elegant. If revenge was a shot of whiskey, then the aftermath was the slow burn. And oh, did it burn. Jessica and I didn't say a word as we walked back to the parking lot, the sounds of clinking glasses and string instruments now replaced by murmurs behind us. That wedding? Done. Ruined. Collateral damage in a war neither of us started, but we sure as hell finished. I should feel bad, Jessica said, unlocking her car. I don't. I shrugged. They walked in as guests and walked out as headlines. Actions have consequences. We just supplied the spotlight. She gave a soft laugh and slid into the driver's seat. I gave her a nod before heading to my own car, heart beating steady. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just clarity. But clarity doesn't protect you from the ripple effects. See, the real show doesn't end at exposure. That's just intermission. The fallout? That's when you find out who people really are. Ashley called that night. 6 times. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, each one progressing like the 5 stages of grief, except somehow all more self-centered. Voicemail 1. Logan, please. Can we just talk? I didn't mean for it to go this far. You ambushed me. That wasn't fair. Voicemail 2. I get it. You're mad. But ruining someone else's wedding? That's low, even for you. Voicemail 3. You always had to make everything public. Always had to win the argument. I guess this was your big mic drop, huh? Voicemail 4. I'm sorry. Okay. Is that what you want to hear? Mason's not who I thought he was. He's freaking out now. He left. Just call me. Voicemail 5. Please. Voicemail 6. Dead silence. Just breathing. Then a whisper. I miss you. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I opened a beer, sat on the couch in my now peaceful rental, and scrolled through a few dozen texts from mutual friends. Half of them pretended they didn't know. The other half congratulated me like I just won the Super Bowl. But the ones that really stood out? The people who said, she did the same thing to someone before you. Yeah, turns out I wasn't the first. I was just the first dumb enough to marry her. And Mason? Oh, Mason had his own fallout. Jessica told me a week later he tried crawling back to her. Said he was pressured, confused, even played the mental health card like a man desperate for sympathy after a 3-year lie. Jessica wasn't buying it. Funny how suddenly he's depressed when the spotlight's not flattering anymore, she texted. He's staying in a hotel. Alone. I had the locks changed yesterday. Good. But let me rewind the tape and focus on what really matters, the quiet aftermath. The Tuesday after the wedding, I stopped by our old house. Not to see her, but to pick up a few boxes I'd left behind. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw her car. Parked crooked. Dusty. Like she hadn't left the house in days. She opened the door when I knocked. Looked thinner. Paler. Like someone who had finally realized the affair was only romantic until it got real. Logan, she said. I didn't walk in. I didn't smile. I just nodded. Just here for the boxes. She stepped aside. They're in the guest room. The house smelled like lavender and wine and someone trying to clean their way out of shame. As I grabbed the last box, she spoke. You really hated me that much? I turned slowly. No, I loved you that much. That's why it hurt. She looked down, fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. He left. I know. She blinked. You do? Because men like Mason always leave when it stops being fun. I just didn't think you'd fall for someone like that. She bit her lip. I was bored, Logan. I raised my eyebrows. So you burned the whole house down because you were bored? I didn't think you'd stop loving me. That one hit like a dull knife. Not because it was true, but because she meant it. In her mind, she was always going to come back. Always going to be able to twist me around with an apology and a teary look. I didn't stop loving you, I said. You just made it impossible to stay. Her face crumpled. Do you think there's ever a chance? No. A pause. Even if. No, Ashley. The box in my hand felt lighter somehow. Maybe it was closure. Maybe just knowing that I had finally, definitively, stepped out of the fog she'd kept me in. As I walked to the door, she called out one last time. I don't know who I am without you. I didn't turn back. Maybe you should figure that out before you date again. And then I left. No yelling. No guilt trip. Just the clean slice of finality. Later that night, Jessica sent me a photo of a burning box in her backyard fire pit. Caption: His cologne smelled like lies. Thought I'd give it the funeral it deserved. I laughed. A real laugh. Funny thing about destruction, it clears the ground. Gives you space to rebuild. And as I sat there in that quiet apartment, surrounded by my own silence, I realized something. I wasn't broken. I wasn't ruined. I was free. Ashley couldn't let it die quietly. She started planting her side of the story. Logan was distant. We were already broken. I just wanted to feel loved again. She spun it into a tragedy where she was the misunderstood heroine, and I was the emotionally unavailable ghost haunting her marriage. But the thing about liars? They always forget there's a paper trail. I handed the receipts to my lawyer. Screenshots. Transfers. Hotel bills paid with our joint account. She wasn't a victim. She was a schemer with a shopping list and no shame. In mediation, she tried to wear that same innocent sweater and soft voice. Let's just settle. No need to drag this through court. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't call her out. I just handed over the folder and let the silence speak. Her expression changed fast. Her tone hardened. She wanted to negotiate. I wasn't in the mood. You're not embarrassed about what you did? I told her. You're embarrassed people found out. That shut her up. The night after mediation, Chase showed up outside my office. Like a man who watched too many mob movies. You got a second? He asked, leaning on his overpriced car like a villain on lunch break. I walked past him. Look, man, he said. I didn't think it would blow up like this. I thought she'd break it off clean. I stopped. Turned. You figured you could slide into my life, and I'd just fade out. He raised his hands like I was the aggressive one. You don't scare me. I leaned in. Then you're dumber than you look. Because I should. He flinched. Just enough for me to know the truth. He wasn't a threat. He was a prop. A background actor who thought he was a lead. I walked away. Let him sit there in his protein shake stench and fragile pride. Because real damage? That was coming from the lawyer's office and her dwindling reputation. Not my fists. The silence after the war was jarring. Not empty. Just different. I started rebuilding. One gym session at a time. One night's sleep without her perfume in the sheets. I'd forgotten what it felt like to wake up and not feel anxious. Then came Rachel, Ashley's sister. We ran into each other at a bar. She walked over, apologetic. I tried to talk her out of it, she said. She told me to mind my business. We talked. Nothing romantic. Just real. You know, Rachel said. Ashley was always the one who needed applause. You gave her stability. She called it boredom. That line stuck with me. Later, she sent me a photo, one from Christmas years ago. Me, Ashley, everyone smiling. I looked at myself in the photo and realized something. I wasn't faking it. She was. Months passed. I had my peace. My strength. My rhythm. Then she emailed. Subject: please, just hear me out. I opened it. Not because I missed her, but because I was curious what excuse she'd reach for this time. She said she was lost. That she messed up. That she finally saw what she had. She didn't ask to get back together. She asked to talk. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Because she didn't miss me. She missed the safety. The loyalty. The comfort of having someone clean up after her emotional messes. And I was no one's janitor anymore. Besides, I had someone new. Her name was Claire. Met her at a bookstore. She picked up a copy of The Stranger and said, heavy read for someone with kind eyes. It wasn't love at first sight. It was peace at first presence. The last time I thought about Ashley, really thought about her, I was driving past our old house. The shutters were crooked, the grass overgrown, like it had stopped pretending to. I didn't stop, didn't slow down, just kept driving. At home, Claire was in the kitchen, humming to a song only she could hear. She danced barefoot across the tile, and I stood on the balcony, sipping my drink, watching her through the glass. This wasn't a rebound. This was real. Not because it was loud, or dramatic, or cinematic, but because it was easy, kind, steady. I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd survived. Ashley? She'll keep chasing thrills, keep burning bridges and wondering why everything around her smells like smoke. But me? I'm done building castles for people who only bring fire. This time, the foundation's mine, and I'm never giving it up again.